Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At Barnabas Health, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners on public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Wells Fargo, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, making healthcare work, the New Jersey Education Association, working for great public schools for every child, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. And by Verizon Communications.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. The whole question is, what do you do when there's a child in crisis, when someone is in crisis? Where do you turn? Who do you call? You're about to see someone on camera who thinks about this all the time. She is Kathy Enerlich, and she is the Executive Director of PerformCare New Jersey. Good to see you, Kathy.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
We did a conference a couple months back talking about the emotional, psychological, the very deep, very difficult issues that people have been dealing with after Hurricane Sandy, this whole area of behavioral health. Define what we mean by behavioral health first, and then we'll talk about crisis.
Sure. I think a lot of people think about behavioral health as mental health. So when I talk about mental health, we're thinking about things like depression, anxiety, behaviors that you see in your children that are not typical. So if your child starts to isolate, or if your child doesn't want to go to school, there must be something going on that might be causing your child to feel that way. And our goal is to help parents figure that out.
You say our goal. For folks who do not know exactly what PerformCare New Jersey is, and the brand is not a household name, if you will, explain to folks what it is. We'll put the website up. Do yourself a favor. Go on, find out. Go ahead.
PerformCare is a single point of access to a full array of behavioral health services for children throughout New Jersey. So it doesn't matter if you're a parent or if you're a social worker. If you see that there's something going on with a child, all you have to do is call PerformCare. And we're there 24/7, which is one of the values of our organization.
By the way, as you're doing that, we're putting up the 800 number. Is it 800 number, team? 877 number. Why is that 877 number up, number one? Kathy, and 24/7, explain what that means. There's a reason why we're doing this.
Sure. I mean, 24/7, when you think about it, behavioral health issues just don't happen between 9 and 5. So we work 24/7 because parents and families and kids need us all the time.
2 o'clock in the morning,
we're there.
A 14-year-old child is experiencing what?
They may be acting out in the household, they may be screaming, they may be fighting with their parents, and the parent doesn't know what to do. They can just pick up the phone, call PerformCare, call our number, because like I said, 24/7. We have master level clinicians there to take the call and then really walk the parent through a series of questions to help understand, first of all, what's going on in the household, and then what is the best next step. And one of the things that a lot of parents don't know about in New Jersey is the fact that we can connect families within an hour of their call to PerformCare, to have a clinician go into their home.
A clinician?
A clinician, a master's level clinician, to go into their home to provide service. And that is phenomenal, because when you think about it, if a family's in crisis, they want help right away. And most people
we'll get back to you in 24 hours.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right. And
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So the beauty of this whole system of care is the fact that you're in the home within an hour. What does it prevent? It prevents a trip to the ER, it prevents a trip to the hospital, and 96% of the kids that get mobile actually stay at home and remain with their family. So there's good outcomes when it comes to the system of care and calling our organization.
You know, it's interesting. You have said that New Jersey in many ways, listen, New Jersey is known for a lot of things that we're not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, highest property taxes,
Mm-hmm.
high auto insurance rates, a lot of things we're not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But you have said publicly that New Jersey has taken the lead in a very positive way in this area. What does that mean?
It means that over 10 years ago, New Jersey had a vision for what had to change for children in the state. And they took that vision and they made it statewide, created a single door where if you need behavioral health services, mental health services, emergency services, and actually as of January, developmental disability services, all you have to do is call one phone number. And then we can link kids to something that's in their community that is clinically appropriate. And so what New Jersey did was really develop a system of care in each county. I mentioned to you mobile response. Mobile's in every county. There are things like care management organizations in every county, family support organizations in every county. And the access or the way into those services is through PerformCare.
So interesting. Did we take for granted, Kathy, for a long time, or just not think about what would happen to these children? Like, what was the plan?
I think as any state system is set up, a lot of things get tried over the years. And I think New Jersey really had this special vision no one else in the nation had. New Jersey was the first in the nation to say, we've got to do it better. And if we're going to really put together an organized
before
system,
that.
What did we do? Well,
Yeah, I'm being
think there were
serious.
many front
I don't want to go
doors.
backwards, but
Sure.
before that, what was happening for these children?
Yeah, there were many front doors. So quite frankly, some families would call child welfare to get social services. Some families would have to go through the juvenile justice system to get service. Some families obviously would
Call
go
the
to their
police.
local hospital or call the police. So there were all these kind of avenues, and it depended on what front door the kid came through, and that's what they would end up getting. So it wasn't necessarily based on need, it was based on the door they walked through. Well, the thing is now there's one front door, and that's, you know, us.
When we had the conference, which was very enlightening for me, and I heard people's stories about their experience since Hurricane Sandy. We talked about the physical destruction, the devastation to people's properties and their homes, the economic impact. But the impact in terms of their lives from a behavioral health point of view was just devastating as well. To what degree, and I know there's an initiative on the part of the state level, is it Hope and Healing, I think
Hope
it is?
and Healing.
Hope and Healing. And I know that's important, but it's not nearly enough. I'm not criticizing the state government, but it's just not enough. Do you think that we in the media, that we as a society overall, have just not spent enough time focusing on that part of it because the physical, what we see visibly, is so obvious and the other part of it isn't?
I think that's one reason, but I think the other reason is that the media tends to focus on what is the big story, and sometimes in mental health it is the story of the person who may, you know, they did something that's quite visible in the community, and that's what gets the news. It's not the day-to-day things that happen that is so beneficial for kids, and I'd really love to give you an example
Sure,
of
go
one. A 17-year-old girl who's developmentally delayed is evicted. Her father and they're evicted from their apartment. So I get a call from a social worker who says, you know, this girl's going to end up on the streets. We need to do something. We connect that girl to a treatment home in the community. PerformCare. We connect her to a treatment home in the community. And so we prevent the homelessness. But the beauty of the system is it doesn't stop there. She was at a district, and there was enough community supports to drive her back and forth to and from school every day until the transportation issue could get, you know, set up. That's the beauty of the system, and it happens every day in our office. And we get
You see it all the time?
all the time. We get thousands of calls.
Which, you know, it's interesting, you get thousands of calls, but one of the things I said to you right before we started the conferences is hopefully we can do a better job in letting more folks know about it. Is it a problem if more people know about PerformCare?
Not at all. That's what we're there
Why is that
for.
not a problem?
It's not
if
a
the demand
problem.
becomes greater.
kids need service, and there's an investment on the part of the state of New Jersey that kids get the service that they should have. And it isn't a problem. We just added 16,000 new children to the system in January, so it's not a problem at all.
Well, we hope more people know about your service, and because clearly the demand, the need is there, and we appreciate the fact that you've come in, and I'm glad that we started this dialogue, and I'm so glad that you invited me, and former Representative Kennedy was there, Patrick Kennedy was there, who came in, who now is a New Jersey resident, and talked about his experiences, and he was very open about it, and it was a very powerful event for me, and I look forward to a partnership down the road, and I want more folks. By the way, put up the website one more time, team, the PerformCare website, if you could. Kathy Enerlich is Executive Director of PerformCare New Jersey, and I thank you, for being with us. I know it won't be the last time. Thank you. Stay right there.
Thank you.
This is One on One. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Linda Czipo is Executive Director of the Center for Nonprofits. Good to see you, Linda.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
There are a lot of misconceptions about nonprofits out there, and we'll talk about some of the major impacts of nonprofits, or two nonprofits since Hurricane Sandy in 2012. But what I'm curious about is this. Some folks think, oh, a nonprofit, that means they're not concerned about the financial bottom line. They don't run like a real business, and they're a charity. Truth is?
Nonprofits, to be successful, have to run like businesses. The myth is nonprofits can't make a profit, and in fact, to stay in operation, you have to be able to have the dollars, the resources to keep the business running. And so it's advisable and even wise to have a surplus at the end of the year to pump back into your programs.
So the Caucus Educational Corporation, the not-for-profit that runs this production company, right?
Yes.
I only say this because we try to run, I don't even want to say like a business, because there's some businesses that are really poorly run. We operate pretty tightly, and we do 2 days of production. I think you know we have lots of guests over 2 days, right? The reason we do that is because of economies of scale dictate that each show is frankly cheaper, because you do it that way.
Sure.
Tighter margins, right?
Yes.
You get more out of the grant. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, nonprofits are very, very creative at stretching the resources. They leverage donations, they leverage volunteers, they find ways to share services, collaborate, economize. That's what nonprofits do.
And your center helps them do that.
Yes, we do.
Explain to folks what your center is, because people say, oh, why would they need a center for nonprofits to help nonprofits do that? Shouldn't they know how to do it on their own?
Well, it's not as easy running a nonprofit successfully as some might think. Nonprofits are the places where people turn to when they need services and help. Nonprofits themselves need a place to turn to, and we try to be that place. So you can call us for advice about compliance requirements. There are a lot of laws.
Compliance with whom?
Laws, regulations, be it fundraising. The IRS has a series of requirements you have to adhere to. Nonprofits are, if they have employees, are bound by the same labor laws as everybody else. So there's a whole framework of laws and regulations that we help organizations to navigate. We help organizations pool their resources by providing purchase opportunities, things like that, so ways to stretch the bottom line that way. And we also advocate for public policies to make the climate a little bit easier for nonprofits to do their missions.
Hurricane Sandy. There are some nonprofits that have actually been created out of Hurricane Sandy. There were nonprofits that were created out of 9/11. There are nonprofits created out of disasters all the time, right?
Sure.
Some of them are very helpful and have an impact. Some of them took advantage of these horrible situations, right?
Yeah.
How is it that we even know which nonprofits are credible and real and which ones aren't?
It all comes down to doing your homework, doing your research, asking the right questions. I mean, certainly there is an existing network of established organizations that are active in this field, and sometimes it's good to go with the names and the entities that you know. For the new ones, look into things like who's on the board. Are they, do they have the mission statements? Do they have the requisite paperwork? I mean, there were some folks parading around as charitable organizations that really weren't. Sometimes it comes down to just that level of basic information.
But the irony is, some of the biggest not-for-profits, the ones that have the brand, if you will, and I know that word is overused for people who know the show, but I use that word a lot, which is nothing more than your public reputation,
sure,
the way I describe it. Some of the biggest brands in the nonprofit world had some of the biggest problems because they were paying their executives millions of dollars. There were serious questions about their finances and whether they were in fact using their dollars that they were getting in donations for what they were supposed to be using their dollars for, right? Am I making too much of that?
Well, I mean, clearly, if that happens, it's a big concern.
But doesn't that throw off the reputation? That causes us some concern. But again, they have to clean up their operation, get rid of the people who are doing those things, and get back to what they were supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, but that is a fraction. It taints everybody, to be sure. But that is a fraction of the thousands.
That's like one politician who does the wrong thing. So everyone in politics is no good. That's not a solution.
No, it's not. And sometimes there's a tendency to try to propose policies that would react to the one anecdote, and that's an issue as well.
That's bad policy.
Yeah, it's just short-sighted, and that's something that we certainly hope that we would like to avoid.
So what about for the nonprofits that have been adversely impacted by Hurricane Sandy, because all of the dollars, or not all, but many of the dollars are going toward Hurricane Sandy relief efforts?
Well, you've got a couple of different things, because the dollars that are going to some of the relief efforts are then being channeled back to nonprofits. And there are foundations that are running, one of the funds has been created by the Community Foundation of New Jersey, and Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation are working together on that. They have a lot of experience in doing this stuff and funding organizations that are good and reputable and will use the money wisely. The other concern, though, is that, and this happens after big disasters, funds are, for lack of a better word, diverted. It's not to say that, because nonprofits were already reeling from the recession.
Yes.
They've been having a hard time as it is, and that effect has been exacerbated by the storm, because you've got people out of work, you've got people who've lost their homes, they're not able to donate the way they were, and some people who were, or some grant makers who were able to donate, have understandably decided that they need to channel more of their money into the relief effort. That leaves a lot of pre-existing needs and causes looking around for how they're going to make their ends meet, make their ends meet to serve the community.
In your organization, how many people on your team?
We have 3 full-time and 1 part-time.
How did you get into this?
I actually discovered the center as an intern through the Eagleton Institute.
I know the place well.
Yes.
It's a wonderful institute connected to Rutgers University.
Yes. A
fellowship program that I graduated from in the early 80s. And really graduates some terrific people who go on to do public policy and other work. So you came out of there, and what, you heard about?
I was an intern at the center. I really found the mission to be very, very powerful. The ability to leverage one set of resources to influence and strengthen and benefit the entire nonprofit community, so that they could provide services and programs of benefit to the state.
Well, it's an important organization. It's the Center for Nonprofits, and Linda, I appreciate you coming in. We appreciate it. And people think, oh, nonprofits, that's a nice thing. No. They make a huge impact on the state of New Jersey and in the country, so we appreciate you coming in, Linda.
Thanks for having me.
Steve Adubato, this is One on One. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
There she is, Dr. Maggie McMenamin, President, Union County College. Good to see you.
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm happy to be here.
For people who do not know the Union County College brand, you have 4 campuses.
Correct.
Where are they?
Well, our main campus is in Cranford, and that's where we really started. And we have secondary campuses in the city of Elizabeth on the east, in Plainfield in the west, and we have another campus, a 4th campus, a little smaller, in Scotch Plains, and that's in partnership with UMDNJ for specialized health programs.
How long have you been in the position you're in?
Well, I've been there almost 3 years. I like to call myself the new president, and I'm riding that as long as possible.
You know, you've talked about the whole concept of education as a ladder. Describe what that means, because I said, what does she mean by a ladder?
Well, in the old days, people would go to college, go to high school, go to college, leave, and never go back to college. They'd just go into the workforce and never return. We know that in this modern economy, that students, workers, adults are going to come on and off the education career ladder. They'll come in, they may get a certificate or a degree, they'll go out into the workforce, and then they're going to realize, I need more training. I want to get a better job, so let me hop back on. I could hop back on for a couple courses to hone my computer skills or my social media skills, or maybe I want to come back on and get an advanced degree, or complete career change. So we encourage adults or students to always think about lifelong learning. You're never too old to come back, get retuned, and prepared either to do a better job or to do a different job.
So what you're saying, doctor, is someone who's listening to you right now, who's thinking, wait a minute, I thought I had to go for this many years, drop everything else I was doing, which that's tough. And if I can't do that, I'm not going. You're saying, get that out of your head.
Get it out of your head. Come in and take a short term, even if you come in, take a couple courses, get your feet wet. Focus on getting a certificate. We have 15 and 30 credit certificate programs.
Both?
Both of them at
How are they different?
Well, shorter in duration, less intensity in terms of the number of the broadness, but maybe a focus. Let's say if you are a chef and you want to get a certificate in pastry.
Hold on, are you saying the hypothetical, or you actually have that?
No, we don't have it at Union, but among the 19 county colleges in New Jersey,
because I know
there
Burlington
are.
has that.
That's right.
I think there's
Atlantic
one in
Cape,
Atlantic,
in
right.
Hudson, at several of the county colleges. Come in, get
Morris,
a short-term certificate. Whether automotive, come and get a short-term certificate in brakes or transmissions. So you can do it in chunks. And we like to set it up like a ladder. Some people call it scaffolding of credentials. And for some students, particularly returning adult students, it's hard to focus on, oh boy, I need a 4-year degree for this, or I need a 4-year degree plus graduate school. That's way too much.
It's like Mount Everest.
Absolutely.
I can't climb that.
Take it, it's like a marathon. Take it in 1 mile at a time.
Do a 5K. Do a 1 mile race first.
That's right. And the short-term certificates, 15 credits, 30 credits, build on that, get an associate's degree, and at different points, jump off into the workforce, identify additional skills that you need, come back on, get your degree, let's say paralegal certificate, paralegal degree, and then you think, well, this is something I'd really be interested in. Go off, get your bachelor's degree, focus on law school. There's all sorts of ways to come on that career educational ladder that work for the people of New Jersey and really that stimulate economic development in New Jersey.
You know, it's so interesting. We've been talking to so many of your colleagues from different academic institutions. You know, while there's some similarities, Doctor, in terms of, you know, some have the same academic courses, there are some things that are unique to each campus. What are some things that are unique to yours?
Well, we have, I like to call we have 4 flagship programs at Union County College. We have one of the largest nursing programs in the country. So nursing, it's common to all the county colleges, but we like to think we have the biggest and the best. We also have an exceptional engineering program, second to none. Engineering.
Any particular reason? Is there a history there?
We do. We had a professor, one of the deans of the colleges from the early 1940s, Elmer Wolf, Professor Wolf, engineering program, and he was a visionary in terms of developing 2-year engineering programs that would prepare students to transfer to the finest engineering programs in the state and in the nation. We also, 40 years ago, Professor Wolf started one of the first programs for minority engineering students. He was a visionary, and right now, our program, second to none, preparing students for transfer, not just to NJIT and to Stevens here in New Jersey, but to engineering schools across the region. So that's the second of our flagships.
Right.
We also have a smaller program, but just as significant in terms of its national reputation, program in American Sign Language.
American Sign Language.
And deaf studies. Now, with the onset of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and really that's 23 years ago that legislation passed, but even before that, but now more than ever, there is a high demand for individuals who can provide sign language interpreting.
Where are the career opportunities?
All over, in education, in media,
Absolutely.
in courts and legal proceedings,
Right.
because the law requires that an interpreter be available for individuals who are deaf and hearing impaired. So we have programs, everything from deaf studies to American Sign Language to deaf interpreting in educational settings.
And the final area?
The fourth one is our Institute for Intensive English. I don't know if you know much about Union County, but the Port of Elizabeth in the great city of Elizabeth.
In the most diverse population in the country.
Absolutely, and so many immigrants hundreds of years ago.
Is it ESL, English as a second language?
Absolutely, but yeah, 100 years ago, who were the immigrants? The Irish, the Italians,
right.
Our families,
That's right.
the Eastern Europeans. Over the century, we've been welcoming into our country and into New Jersey through that Port of Elizabeth, into Union County, so it's only fitting that we have a very large, over 1,000 students in that Institute for Intensive English, where new immigrants can learn how to speak our language, reading, writing, speaking in several different levels. We have students from 78 different countries learning how to speak English and learning how to be American citizens through that institute.
Powerful stuff. By the way, real quick, how many students are at your place?
Nearly 40,000 credit and non-credit students.
And the campuses again are in?
Cranford, Elizabeth, Plainfield, and Scotch Plains.
Dr. Maggie McMenamin. I like your Italian name, by the way. Speaking of immigrants, right? President, Union County College, I want to thank you for joining us. It's a powerful story and one of the many in the community and county college world. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Thanks, Steve.
That was great.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Wells Fargo, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the New Jersey Education Association, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, PSE&G, and by Verizon Communications. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
New Jersey is a leader in solar power, and PSE&G is doing its part. With 24 solar installations in New Jersey, projects that are giving landfills new purpose and turning former brownfields green. Solar powers more than our homes and schools and businesses. It powers our economy by creating jobs right here in the Garden State. PSE&G, proud to support New Jersey.